Welcome back to Uncovered. Today we are uncovering a topic that I think every single one of you are going to be on board with, and I'm joined by our co-host, not host. What are you? A guest.
Guest. I'm a guest.
She's a guest.
I'm a co-host for today, I
guess.
guess.
She is my co-host for today, and that is Jess, who is a pole dancer, psychologist, and a researcher. Welcome to the podcast, Jess.
Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited. We are going to uncover mindset. How good. It's such a juicy topic. When I sent this to her, she was a little bit like, what part of mindset? I'm like, I wanted to say it all, but I don't think that's possible.
Yeah, how much time do we have? Is there a mindset series that we can do, perhaps?
Not a bad idea. Not a bad idea. Anyway, let's just start with the basics. What is mindset?
So when we talk about mindset, we're talking about how someone thinks, so someone's way of thinking. So that can be positive and that can be negative, and that can be both, actually. Sometimes it's helpful to think of mindset as someone's personal philosophy, although there can be a hell of a lot more to it than just that.
So is that when you say personal philosophy, I assume then everything that we've learned or seen or experienced until this day in our life is creating that philosophy?
Yeah, so we've got both our lived experiences, things that actually happen to us, as well as things that we learn along the way, and then that shapes how we think.
With our mindset.
Yeah.
Interesting. So what are like the biggest contributing factors?
Yeah, so mindset can be influenced by both our external environment or external factors, as well as things within ourselves, so internal factors. When we're talking about external factors, we're thinking things like the people we come into contact with, friends, family, co-workers, and so on. It can be impacted in the moment as well, or in a period of time. So things like our current workload can impact our mindset. Stress can massively impact our mindset. And in fact, stress mindset is a whole nother thing we could talk about another day. And social media, the world that we live in today, we would be remiss to not consider how social media might actually shape our mindset for good and bad.
My husband and I were just having this conversation this morning, just over all the stuff about the Queen passing away. And I'm not going to go into this because I don't think it's a topic we need to uncover here. But then we were just talking about our own experiences, and we're like, we just feel we were never meant to be this connected as human beings. And it has just so many, everybody's opinion. Sorry, I'm like completely off topic here, but so many people's opinions can now be said, which can impact you. And you don't even know this person. And it can just have such a negative impact on your mindset.
There is really well-established research about how big of a network we're supposed to have. That's actually backed in evolutionary psychology. And the number's not going to come to me now because, of course, it won't. But
it wasn't what we were meant to be talking about.
It's certainly not an unlimited number, and it's not even in the thousands. I think from memory it might be something in the sort of realm of 100, 120. And then it's actually those people, we've got people closest to us and then going out further.
Yeah.
But yeah, from an evolutionary psychology perspective, we aren't supposed to be this connected. That is true.
So crazy. And then we all know social media has its benefits, being able to find new tricks for pole dancing and conditioning ideas and all of that. Like they 100% are positive. But anyway, so your mindset then is, like somebody can walk into a studio and be in a bad mood, let's say, and impact your mindset.
Yeah. So because the external environment can impact our mindset, someone can come into a studio having had a certain day, having a certain mindset, or come in and someone in the studio could impact their mindset. So the very culture of a studio could also be an environment which impacts mindset. But we can't forget that there are a lot of internal factors that are really important for mindset too. And so you can have the same person, for example, walk into a studio and, their mindset will not be shifted because it's shaped so strongly by internal factors. So when we're talking about internal factors, the main ones we would be thinking about for mindset are locus of control, fixed versus a growth mindset, and then someone's goal orientation. So what those words mean.
Yeah, I'm like, can you, my next thing would be like, can you please break them down for the people who might be
Absolutely.
like, what the?
My pleasure. So a locus of control is the extent to which people feel that they have control over the events that influence their life and the outcomes of those events. So people either can have an external or an internal locus of control, which can shift according to things as well. But an external locus of control, generally, if someone's on that end of the spectrum, it would mean that they think consequences of actions and outcomes in life are actually outside of their control. So they think sort of, why bother? Comes down to fate and luck.
I've been listening to this. I don't know if you've heard of him, Earl Nightingale.
No.
Yeah. So he talks about, what's within your control? You can't control people. Where am I going with this stuff? Oh, luck. That was it. Luck is about preparedness and opportunity. It's not luck. Like, you still need to be prepared to be able to take that opportunity on board when it comes to it.
Sounds like someone with an internal locus of control.
Interesting. Nice segue.
Reconceptualizing their external locus of control. But some people do sit in the middle, which is actually really adaptive, but I'll come back to that.
Yeah.
So an internal locus of control is pretty much the opposite. It's where someone believes that what happens to me, the outcomes, the consequences of my actions actually depend upon what I do. I make things happen.
Yeah.
Of course, we know sometimes in life, try as you might, you can't make the things happen that you want. And then sometimes, without any effort, things just seem to fall together. So actually being able to adapt your locus of control is really useful for mindset. Being able to go, okay, this thing, is it up to me? Were these consequences in my control? Or are the consequences of these actions in my control? So that's locus of control. That's one thing that shapes mindset. Another thing is someone's mindset around fixed versus growth. So that's referring to whether someone thinks success is about ability or about sort of trying. So a growth mindset is what you want to have as a polar. A growth mindset is where you view things like talent and ability as being learnable, as in you are capable of achieving whatever you put effort into. You can improve if you try. That's a growth mindset. People with a growth mindset tend to seek out challenges because these give opportunities to improve. They want feedback. Feedback is also seen as an opportunity. People with a growth mindset will keep persevering despite whatever comes their way. So they know that it's effort that is required to build skills and success. So a fixed mindset, and a lot of people have a fixed mindset when they think about sport. So I imagine a lot of people outside of the pole industry might also think fixed mindset, in that you're born with an innate ability to do sporting stuff. But we know that's not the case with pole. We know everyone can do pole. Everybody is a pole body. So a fixed mindset, people will avoid criticism or feedback because they'll see it as a threat. They will stop if they experience failure or obstacles. They just won't put in the effort to actually succeed.
And we see definitely a mixture of this in a studio setting. And I mean, I can only talk from my studio lens, but even I've been through that personally in balancing those two, because in some areas I have a very good growth mindset, but in other areas I'm just like, this is never going to happen. My body can never achieve. Splits is one of those for me. Like, my body can never achieve this. Every time I do it, this happens. And it's so easy to fall into, even when you are aware. So I assume most people have a mixture of these mindsets.
Yeah. And you can also tweak it as well. If you catch yourself that you fall on the side of more of a fixed mindset, most of the time people are born with things, you can actually convince yourself in the opposite. So you can do things repeating to yourself, no, everything is in my possibility, it's up to me. And this is where locus of control and fixed versus growth mindset can kind of work together as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the third thing that I think plays a massive role in pole, it plays a massive role in a lot of things, is actually someone's goal orientation. So when psychologists talk about goal orientation, it's a way to explain mindset regarding achievement-related stuff. And when we pole, sure, we have fun, we dance, but we are upskilling. There is achievement related to pole. So people either have a mastery or a performance orientation, but they can change again between these two depending on their goals in the moment. A mastery orientation is someone focusing on learning and improvement. These are the pole students you want. They come in and they're keen to just keep leveling up little by little and learning as many hints and tips and tricks as you can possibly feed them. We want the mastery orientation people. These people want to become competent. Performance orientation serves a purpose, particularly if you're going to do something like compete. But you don't want to have that all the time because performance orientation is focusing on outperforming others.
So is this the students who come in and are like, I just need to grade, or I just need to get up. I just want to be advanced. I just need to get here.
Yeah. And so even if they're not specifically thinking I need to advance and I need to grade because I want to be better than everyone, it's still about the performance element of it. So they're not focused on learning tips and tricks. They just want the piece of paper that we don't actually give, but they want the tick box. That's a performance orientation. And unfortunately, performance orientation tends to be something that increases our sense of worry and anxiety.
If we're not achieving through that.
We take that as like a personal slight that we failed, because that's the other thing about performance orientation. You don't want to be worse than others because then you feel like you've failed. Whereas mastery orientation, if you always feel like you're learning and you're getting a real thrill from the learning, you always feel like you're succeeding because technically you are.
Yeah. And I think, progress regardless is progress, and that is a step in the right direction. And I feel that we get such a mix of these students, but the mastery ones are obviously the ones who are like, look, I'm just happy to stay in this level for a little bit. And then the performance ones are like, I don't even care if my toes aren't pointed. Like, let's just get me to the top. Yeah.
If I can take the photo for the photo shoot, I can do the thing. That's performance,
Yes.
Don't pull me up on things like,
And I think one thing that's probably been a detriment, I don't know if that's the right word, but to the pole industry is we obviously worked in such a capacity previously where it didn't matter if it was on both sides, and it didn't matter if you were strong enough or mobile enough. It was, you just need to do the thing.
Yeah,
just
find a way to do the thing.
If you can do the thing, you've done the thing, and then you can do the next thing. And now that's definitely a huge undoing. And I know recently I just had a student come in and she's been polling at other places, and she's like, how important is both sides? I'm like, real important.
No.
She's like, but I can do advanced things. I'm like,
on both sides?
On both sides. I'm like, no. I'm like, oh, this is going to be a hard conversation. But I guess even being somebody who works in a studio and understanding this and being like, okay, this is the type of mindset, you could probably cater your deliverables to them.
That is a good thing that you raised there. As an instructor, you can actually look out for when your students say things to you, or a studio owner, of course, and be like, oh, are they giving me a hint that they're very performance orientated? And then you can tweak how you respond back. It's not your job to shift someone's mindset, but you can tweak things for them. So, yeah.
I've been teaching a fundamentals class, and I get a mix of people in, and it is purely like, what are the basics in pole? Now let's make it really pretty. And yes, slowing people down sometimes can be really hard. So then you've got to put that into your planning to be like, we're going to focus really slow here. And this is where we're focusing on our toes and how many hand changes we have. But yeah, I think pole is achievable, but challenging, but achievable, I think, for most people. And we've gotten really good at getting the basics down packed, that people come in and they start achieving really quickly, which is great because they stay. But I think it sets them up for not failure. I don't think that's the right word, but.
Well, there are definitely things it can feel when you're a beginner that you are, just hitting all these goals. Like you can literally every week, you can have a simple trick thrown at you and have some success, which builds your motivation and helps your mindset to come back. And then, yes, at some point, perhaps around inverting, starting to head into intermediate, that you start to go, whoa, okay. We do need to really focus on what we're doing here. And you're focusing on even your conditioning exercises going for longer. And that can be like, this is not what I signed up for. Thank you. I want weekly pats on the back.
I want to feel good about myself. And that's where, non-graded pathways or non-leveled pathways are great.
And that's also when mindset is really important, because you need to tap your own back, you pat yourself on the back, and feel like, okay, what did I achieve this week, for example, rather than having it be really, obvious. You need to make it obvious to yourself, I guess.
Yeah. And how can people do that?
That is a great question. The first thing to sort of understand your own mindset, I guess, and improve your own mindset is you do actually need to reflect upon your mindset. So I imagine there would be some listeners, as we're reading out, descriptions of locus of control, going, oh, yeah, that sounds like me. Now, if you're getting, if you're having that sounds like me moments about the less ideal version of everything we just explained, if you seem to be more externally locus of control, if you seem to have more of a fixed mindset, and if you're performance orientated, that's okay. The fact that you can reflect on that and go, how can I adapt? That's actually key to improving your own mindset. You also need to always be reflecting on what's on your plate right now, because it would be silly for us to think that our mindset is always going to be consistent, because as I said before, the external environment impacts it. And so you might have a great growth mindset, mastery orientation, you're the best student that any pole instructor could ever want, but then work just turns to crap. You're going to come in and you're going to have some self-doubt. So being mindful of that stuff and then not letting that make massive shifts in your mindset would be important.
And I assume injury is a huge one there, because especially if you come back or you take time off, or you just now have to work around something you didn't have to work around before.
Well, it's not as exciting to work towards recovery, is it? Unfortunately.
I know those physio exercises. I went back to doing some this week and I was like, I hate them already. I don't want to do this anymore. This is like hard and boring. But
talk to any physio and they will tell you, no one ever does as much homework as they're supposed to. Yes. Because we don't pat ourselves on the back for doing our exercises.
I know. We do positives every night, and it was definitely a positive last night that I was like, I did my bloody exercise. So what else? So we can reflect, and when we are reflecting and we're looking at this, I guess a key factor is going to be not to be hard on yourself, regardless of what comes out. It's like having that moment to be really honest. Yeah.
And it's funny that usually the answer to a lot of things that we're talking about psychological is actually to not be hard on yourself. Easier said than done.
I know, I'm like, guilty.
If you find that you're being really hard on yourself about, this goes for anything in life, but, pole as a specific example today, one exercise that you can do to actually be kinder to yourself, a self-compassion exercise, feels a bit silly, but go look in the mirror and talk to yourself the way that you would talk to your friend. So imagine you are sitting there and you are thinking to yourself, well, the reason you got injured is because you're so crap at pole anyway, so you shouldn't be doing it because you're too old. Go look at yourself in the mirror and say to yourself, you're not too old to do this. Pole is for anyone at any age. Don't be so unfair to yourself. People get injuries all the time. These sorts of things, like you would say to your friend if your friend sat there saying the same stuff to you, and do it as often as you can tolerate, and you will build a sense of self-compassion, and that will help your mindset.
Yes. Have you, I think I brought this up in our last podcast with Mon, the High Five Habit by Mel Robbins. Have you read that? Hers is about high-fiving yourself every day, because you think about a high five, it's associated with achievement, positivity, and people are like, I feel funny. And I mean, the first couple of times I did it, I was like, woohoo, like sarcasm came through.
This is weird, but somehow it works.
It feels good. And I know we did an exercise as a team about confidence a little while ago. And the first activity was to sit in front of the mirror and write down what you see, and just looking at yourself in the mirror sometimes and actually seeing yourself can be really hard.
Yeah, sometimes just staring at yourself in the mirror can involve some serious self-compassion.
Yeah.
So look, these things, when they're a little bit challenging, normally mean you're on the right track. So keep at it.
Outside your comfort zone, right?
Absolutely.
100%. And I mean, it's in pole, when they start getting challenging, what do? You're like, I really want to achieve this. And I think when it comes to it being ourselves, we're like, oh, but I can wait. Like, it's okay. but really, can you? Is it okay? I mean, that's for you to decide. Sorry, guys.
Rhetorical questions here. We're having a real pondering moment.
Yeah, we're just a little lost in mindset. So once they've done that and they've reflected and they can be compassionate, what are some activities, I guess, they can do, or will we get into this a little later? How they can, we'll leave that.
Hold that and maybe move on to consistency with training.
Consistency. This was one of the big ones. I was reading something. I don't know where I was reading it, but I feel like this is a huge struggle. And I think this came out of the podcast episode I did a couple of weeks ago, like, why are we rushing our pole journey? And I just got deep into some thoughts. So I definitely see people come in and go, I'm not achieving this trick. Why am I not achieving this trick? And then you look at their history and you're like, you're coming once a week. What are you doing to build your strength here? Like, and this is why our minimum membership is 2 a week, because we're like, you need something to keep going. So how can people get, like, what factors impact this, and how can people get better at training consistently? Because splits is the biggest example for this. It is a consistency thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the main thing about consistency is going to come down to our good old fashioned boring goal setting. I really, I hate to be the bearer of the boring news, but it comes down to goal setting. So sure, we all start pole for wildly different reasons, and then we also start maintaining our pole memberships for different reasons. And a lot of those reasons might be, initially we say things like our sense of community and we go with our friends, and that's all great. But also, what do you hope to achieve? And these don't have to be hugely earth-shattering things for goal setting, but you do need some clarity about what you're doing, why you're doing it, and where you're going. So one of the things that affects consistency, this is also something I think that affects people who maybe were coming 4 days a week, 3 days a week, and then suddenly they're coming 1 day a week. Why? Can be goal setting. So when we're thinking about goal setting, even if you're in a graded pathway and you're trying to level up, that's not enough. The reason the graded pathways aren't enough is because they're externally set goals, as in you're told what you need to achieve within a period of time. And we know very clearly from decades and decades of research that humans are more motivated and they get more stuff done when we're motivated internally by things within ourselves that we value. So some people might find that they're internally motivated, like I was saying, by the sense of community and friendships, and that'll sustain them going for a while, but it just isn't quite enough. What you need to have with pole, and this comes out of the sporting sort of space as well, like elite sport, is you need 3 types of goals. You need performance goals. Performance goals are about achieving to a standard. So imagine you're in a graded pathway, intermediate, and you need to hold your invert straddle for 10 seconds. That would be a performance goal. You need to perform that invert straddle, achieve to that standard for 10 seconds. You need process goals. So process goals are the actions you need to engage in to get that performance goal.
So this is your conditioning, your stretching, the boring, I'm using quotations for those who are listening, the boring activities.
Yes, these are the things that I think we don't actually put enough time into often as polers, because we might think, well, I go to my class each week and my instructor's going to give me conditioning. But what are you doing? You could be doing your own stuff. You don't even need to come into the studio an extra day. You could be doing more ab crunches at home to make sure your abs are really ready to hold that straddle, for example. So process goals, actions you need to do that get you on that path to that performance goal. And then the third thing is an outcome goal, which is different from a performance goal. It's about the results. So in this example, the straddle is something you perform so that you can grade into the next level.
Yep.
That's the outcome goal.
Okay. So how do we get better at doing more boring tasks? Because, I mean, everything, when you listen to any self-help thing, it's all about doing really boring things. And it's hard to maintain when you're not motivated. So what do we do to be better at this?
Potentially one of the best hacks you can do is actually to do these things with someone else.
Yeah.
So it's called social facilitation, the idea that you're more productive or you do more, do better with someone else. But besides that, the answer, unfortunately, is you have to be disciplined.
Oh, you've been in my head ever since you said that. For a little side note, when I sent this to her, she sends me back this card that's like, forget motivation, be disciplined. And it's got like a little Wonder Woman Lego person on it. And this comes into my head every bloody time I don't want to do something. I'm like, discipline. In all fairness, I have made the bed almost every day. I've like done some kind of exercise. So yeah, and it's only been a week and a bit, guys. So we're still probably in motivation phase, but.
Look, one of the things around motivation, the reason that you need to be disciplined, because people think, okay, cool, you know, you hear me, I need to make some process goals so that I can achieve my performance goals and outcome goals. Cool. Okay. I'll do it when I'm ready. I'll do it when I'm motivated. We think motivation will come and then we'll act. Actually, you need to act and then motivation comes. So that's where you have to be disciplined. That's where you have to be like, no, this is self-respect. You know, by doing this, you are showing yourself respect, being disciplined. You know, be that tough love, I'm a general, or whatever you need to be.
I know. And I listen to students in the studio who will talk about, you know, an instructor's flexi class. They're like, it's really tough, but I love it. And I'm going back. And I know when I used to teach a lot of strength and tones, they're like, it's hard, but I'm coming back. So we do love that tough love. It's just when nobody's making you do it.
Look, if there is someone who gives you tough love that you appreciate, you know, if you're an instructor of flexi class, you're like, oh, they terrify me, but, you know, I so appreciate that we get the stuff done. When you're trying to do these things for yourself, imagine that person's there doing their thing, you know, saying their stuff. That can really help.
Also, if you've got the means to do it, you know, private lessons or some type of external coaching with that particular person can help you work towards these goals. However, coming all the way back, you need the goal first to be able to move forward so you can make those steps back.
Look, because yes, it absolutely makes sense to have private instructors, coaches, whatnot, to help with your accountability. But if they give you your process goals, it's still coming from outside of yourself.
Yeah,
you know, you're gonna cancel out of lessons and you're not going to be as committed to the goal.
Even though you brought somebody in to help you with the goal, it still needs to be driven internally.
Fine line between support versus, you know, someone else doing it for you, I guess.
Yeah. So I guess we need to, when we figure out what it is that we want, we probably need to think realistically and go, is like, I would still love to be able to drop into a split at any time.
Who wouldn't?
I'm like, why was I not? I'm the hypermobile type, but not the flexi hypermobile type. I'm like, damn you, body. But is it something like, is it actually one of my big goals? And if I'm completely honest right now, it's not. Like, my goals are around my business rather than my pole dancing skills. And I still want to maintain my pole dancing skills, but I'm not planning on competing. I'm not planning on growing in that way. I want to grow in different ways.
So when I said goal setting, I'm sure most people are like, oh, for God's sake, we're going to talk about smart bloody goals again, which I absolutely sort of am.
I was like, she's got something I haven't heard about. I'm excited.
We're all familiar enough with SMART goals. And if you're not, you know, Google that and you'll come up with millions of different things for the SMART. But actually, instead of SMART goals, smarter goals. So what that means is the goal should be enduring. It should be linked to some sort of bigger picture or bigger value. So what you were saying there was about, I'm not going to be competing, because you can see how splits serve a bigger purpose, a value-driven sort of thing if you're going to be competing. So what you need to do is be like, how do splits relate to my business? I don't have the answer. It's going to be creative for you to come up with something. But I'm sure you could find a way, because we always can. The other thing is smarter goals. So E for enduring and R for ranges. So as humans, we actually feel a lot better if we've just progressed on a goal. We don't necessarily need to achieve a specific goal. So for example, if you're trying to do splits, if you're in your training, have a range in your goals, like I will do 3 to 5 minutes of these particular stretches 1 to 2 days a week, instead of being like, I must do this 3 days a week for this amount of time. And if you then do it 3 times a week for 1 minute, or whatever it is, you feel heaps better about that progression on the goal, and you're more likely to keep at it.
I know when I was doing my physio exercises this week and I started doing them, my body felt really sluggish and clunky. And I looked at it and I'm like, cool, I know I have a, 5 to 6 range here. I'm just going to do the 5 because at least I'm doing it. So
that's
100%.
Exactly right. Exactly right. So that's why ranges are so powerful, because you finish that workout and you're like, I did my exercises. I'm a legend.
And I can now work up towards something. Like, I guess I have progress to show, rather than being like, I did it all at the highest thing and now my body is really sore and I'm not going to be able to move for 3 days.
Because that would be demotivating.
Yes, 100%.
Which actually is a nice segue into an interesting motivation myth. Similar to the idea that people think motivation, I'll wait for it to come because then I'll do the thing, but how you have to actually do the thing to bring the motivation. People always say, and this is where the forget motivation, be disciplined comes from, because I hear from students all the time, as well as other clients, as well as, gosh, I'm sure I've said it myself a million times. I'm just not motivated to do that thing. Just not motivated to go to class tonight. That's a lie. There's no such thing as not being motivated. Instead, you are motivated to avoid that thing. So I'm motivated to avoid class tonight. So motivation never disappears. It just is directed in different ways.
Interesting. And then when you put the word avoid in there, it's like a negative connotation.
As soon as you hear avoid, you're like, oh, I'm being naughty. Avoidance is a problem. Avoidance very rarely, but sometimes has a purpose. But usually, yes, avoidance is very naughty.
I'm just like reflecting on so many life decisions right now.
Aren't we all? Aren't we all?
Wow. So with being consistent, obviously we need to figure out our goals. Is there anything else that helps with our consistency?
There's still a lot of things to do with ourselves that might differ. If we sit around a table and there's 5 of us and all of us come up with the same performance, process, and outcome goal, there's still going to be factors that can enhance which of us might be more effective at achieving that goal. That can be things like considering our own personality, things like how perfectionistic are you? Because perfectionism is always a problem because perfect doesn't exist. So if you know you're quite perfectionistic, then tweaking your goals to sort of build in a safeguard around perfectionism. People who are highly conscientious, that's another sort of personality thing. These people are really organized and planful and diligent. That can be really beneficial for goal attainment as long as you're not too conscientious, because that actually starts getting into the perfectionism space. So actually reflecting on your own personal qualities and thinking about things like what has worked for me in the past for goals. And this can be for study goals, work goals, whatever's worked for goals in general. It's probably good insight that same stuff will help you with your goals for pole.
And what was my thought there? It's gone. It'll come back. Mindset, I assume. And like you talk about personality and the mindset, if you've got a fixed mindset, a growth mindset, locus of control, I assume all comes into this as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, if you know that you're quite fixed in your mindset, then you can actually sort of do things again to sort of tweak your goals. Like, maybe you can even remind yourself of what you might perceive to be your own natural ability. One of the things with pole is there's this sort of confusion about whether pole is a sport or an artistic expression. You have some people that really identify with the athleticism of it, and then other people identify with the dance. So if you think, if you're sort of fixed mindset when it comes to athleticism, but you're quite growth mindset when it comes to things like dance, just really reminding yourself that actually being able to do that trick and leveling up will help your dance instead of focusing on the athleticism side of things.
It'll support both factors.
Absolutely.
And the other big topic, is there anything on consistency before I move over to the other big topic?
The only other thing I was going to say is life in general, when it comes to consistency, you need support.
Yeah.
So make sure that you have a good support system, whether it be your, pole colleagues or your instructors, or, if you find you're not achieving your pole goals because something's not working at your studio, maybe you trial out other studios. There's always ways to tweak your support system, and actually getting feedback from your support system. So actually, sometimes we just need that reassurance that we're on the right track. Or sometimes, we might set ourselves a goal, but actually if we seek feedback from an instructor, they might tweak it for us and give us a different perspective. Yeah. Is really supportive and helps us.
And your instructor too has seen so many other people go through very similar journeys. So they might be able to, it might not work for you, their advice, but they might be able to give you advice on how to tailor that. And I think studios, when it comes to, you made a point there of, if your studio is not working for you, try a different one. 100%. I feel like, and definitely in Queensland and in Brisbane, there's a loyalty element that exists when it comes to studios. But they're not always the right fit. Every studio and student relationship is a relationship, and sometimes we're not going to be suitable for one another. So knowing that it's okay to go, yep, look, this isn't working for me, I'm going to go explore somewhere else.
And it might not be the right fit for you right now.
Yes.
If your particular goals are actually about performing, and the studio that you normally go to doesn't have a huge performance focus, maybe it's worth trying a different studio where there's, even instructors who have competed in the types of comps you'd like to end up in, So yeah, it might be breaking up, but it may not be forever.
Yes. And you can always go back for drop-in classes, casual classes.
Absolutely.
Connection, because I know the pole sister or the pole community is huge for a lot of people. So it is a lot to leave, but depends what your goals are. And if your goals are just to make friends at pole and have a little bit of fun, then yeah.
Go to several studios. You'll make even more friends.
Lots of friends. Maybe just keep it in the 100, 120 range.
Yes, be mindful of that. Absolutely.
Yes. You might overwhelm yourself. But the next one is comparison. Yeah. Oh, such a good topic.
Yeah. So I know that you have uncovered a bit about why do we compare ourselves to others before. Look, and we could really get quite philosophical about things to do with the world that we live in today, of course. I guess the thing with polars comparing ourselves to other polars, usually we probably think we're doing it for the right reasons, because you aspire to be like that person. You want to get their tips and tricks. You really, as a general rule, it's useful to try and not compare ourselves to others. It's useful to instead try and take stock of our own sense of self and, what our benefits are and whatever else. That's not to say we don't aspire to do tricks others do and whatnot, but sort of pull back before we're actually comparing ourselves to others, because no one compares to ourselves. I feel like I was going to sing Sinead O'Connor there, like nothing compares to you. Nothing compares to ourselves,
I think too is, are we in avoidance when we're not looking and taking stock in ourselves?
We're actually really feeding a negative mindset when we're comparing to others often. Not always, there's always exceptions to the rule. When it comes to comparison, as a general sort of rule, this might surprise some people, we tend to compare ourselves either upward or downward. So upward is comparing ourselves to others who are better than us, do more than us, things that are aspirational. We think it's all about self-improvement. Actually, sometimes when we compare ourselves in an upward social comparison, it's really maladaptive. So it affects our self-esteem because we're making it clear to ourselves what we're not. So for self-esteem, self-confidence, usually researchers have found that a downward social comparison is the better answer. So that's where we compare ourselves to a target we consider to be inferior on some sort of dimension of interest. So compare ourselves to a pole dancer in a lower grade. Even saying that feels awful to consider.
It's like they're starting their pole journey, but is it like that reflection thing of?
Because it actually helps you understand how far you've come and take stock of how good you are doing, ground yourself in the present moment. But yes, it feels really awful to think, go compare yourself to someone you consider to be crap, because then it's like you're judging someone for being lesser than you.
Yes. But it is a really good way to remember. And even sometimes going back and doing tricks that you haven't done in a long time, or like many levels below you, could just make you remember, oh yeah, I was once here and these now feel okay and they feel good and I can own these, rather than going, oh, I can't do all these things, so I'm going to continue to go to higher classes and like put myself down in that process.
So actually, that's probably one of the nicest ways that you can engage in a downward social comparison, would be for you to always be recording yourself, which I know that a lot of instructors will say, and it feels super weird to do. But if you record yourself when you suck, when you're trying an activity and failing miserably, and then watch that later when that trick becomes second nature, then you're doing a downward social comparison on past you, which actually we know that when we think about our past self and our future self, we actually think about them like they're a separate entity to ourselves. So yes, the nicest way to do a downward social comparison is compare yourself to past you. Yeah. Your brain thinks you're looking at someone completely separate.
Interesting. What is that in the brain that does that? Like,
don't ask me brain questions.
Oh. Sorry. Okay, we'll stick to mindset.
Things are happening in the brain.
Lots. Yeah. And I mean, the brain is so not understood, while it's still so understood, I assume. There's a lot going on in there.
I'm sure if I spent some time, I could find you an answer.
It's all right. I'm like, I'll probably forget about it in like an hour.
I won't. I'll go home and be like, bloody hell, what does a brain do?
Why did she ask me these brain questions? Interesting. So yeah, okay. So we need to record ourselves more to be able to look back.
Record yourself more. You mentioned before about, on Instagram, watching other polers and stuff, seeing them do cool tricks and whatnot. Now, to be clear, there's absolutely no research about pole dancers looking at other pole dancers and whether that's a good or a bad thing for things like body image and whatnot. I would love to do research in this space, so watch out. But we do know that things that were created to be beneficial, like the whole Fitspiration hashtag on Instagram and other socials, was created to give people a sense of inspiration that didn't focus just on body appearance. It was about being fit. But that actually, this whole Fitspiration space is just as problematic as the general sort of thinspiration stuff, which is the idea that we want to be as thin as possible. So sometimes we do things to try to be helpful and it backfires.
Yeah.
So there's a possibility that looking at pictures of other polers that you aspire to be like can actually be related to some negative outcomes, just because things like looking at muscular bodies can actually make us feel worse about ourselves, even if we're quite muscular ourselves. So I guess I would take, even with comparison, we might do it in the studio, but we might do it on Instagram and whatnot as well. Just be careful. And again, the answer is sort of like, reflect upon how it makes you feel. Does it give you a sense of hope and determination to try and get that trick yourself one day? Or do you find yourself feeling a bit worse about yourself after you watch some amazing polers do some amazing tricks?
And I guess I know personally there's a few entrepreneurs I follow, and I follow them because they motivate me. And they, like, when I'm feeling pretty crap, I'm like, go on and I'm going to go look at these guys and see what they're doing. And like it gets my brain going and thinking. But I can sometimes go, oh, but I haven't done anything in the last couple of weeks. So am I really cut out for this? Should I really be doing this? And also Instagram's a highlight reel. So
yeah, I don't need to remind anyone, I'm sure, that no one's life looks like their actual Instagram. No one even looks like they bloody do on Instagram.
Thank you, filters.
Right? So yes, of course, we know that instinctually, but after we doom scroll for 30 minutes at the end of a night when we've had a rough day, Yeah, that's not the thing that sort of comes straight into our mind. So just be careful with the comparisons, including on the internet.
Yeah, and even comparison to your previous self, I guess. I've come back from injury and I can't do anything anymore. Like, this really sucks. But another really common one I see is I started at the same time as X.
Yes.
And now X is here and
Yes.
I'm still here.
So this is another place too where comparison can not only harm your own mindset, but it can start to harm others. So, things like two people might start together. Two people have completely different lives. They have different commitments, responsibilities, obligations. And so one person's ability through effort, usually, to succeed through levels quicker shouldn't be a reflection on the other person. And by comparing yourself to them, you can also make them feel worse. People might say things like, oh, well, you were only able to do that because you don't work as much as me. Or, you're making excuses for yourself, but you're actually putting the other person down too. So we've got to try and celebrate each other and do things to promote positive mindsets about ourselves, for ourselves. And that helps the people around us too.
Yeah. And I think, it all comes back to looking inwards, right?
Yeah, sadly, we keep saying reflect.
I know. And I know, like, doing my MBA, we had reflection pieces in almost every piece of assessment. And you could see the people who are just not willing to, like, look at themselves and grow, who potentially don't have growth mindsets. And it's in that area. And there's just, it was always a hassle to do that, but it has its place.
If you want to improve your mindset about pole, you can listen to as many people as you want talking about it, but you won't affect change unless you reflect on your own circumstances. So,
I love your honesty there.
Sadly, I'm sorry,
but I'm
not sorry.
Like, how can you say to somebody, and I'm just thinking from like an instructor perspective, and you build rapport and eventually you can, but how can you be like, mate, you need to fix your you need to fix your head. I shouldn't say that, but like, your mindset's getting in the way here. How can we improve your mindset? And I mean, as an instructor or a person who works in a studio, I guess that is, you probably need to reflect on what's going on for you.
Yeah, look, unless you're going to upskill every instructor out there to be a psychologist to work on people's mindsets and charge much more money, the answer really is still, even if they were, the person needs to work on themselves. Yeah.
There's only so much we can do to help them.
Yeah.
So what can we do? How can we get better mindsets as pole dancers?
All right.
About our pole journeys?
So you need to stop comparing yourself to others. We've made that pretty clear. That's the first thing you need to do. And if you're going to compare yourself to past you, don't let it be a pre-injury you when you were kicking goals and competing and whatnot. You want to look at, beginner you if you're now intermediate you if you're now advanced, and so on and so forth. If you're competing and you've been competing for a few years, go watch your first competition. You should cringe a little. That's really good. That's a downward social comparison. That will help your self-esteem, your confidence, your mindset. Engage in reflection. I won't harp on about it anymore, but please.
I think we've done a great job at reflection. Coming back to the first, what was your first one again, though?
The stop comparing yourself.
Oh, yeah. And I guess if you have come back from injury, what came to my mind just then is probably comparing my current self, because I'm probably intermediate space. I can still do some advanced stuff, but comparing me to intermediate Steph back in the day, because that's where you're going to see cleaner lines, better technique, those types of things.
Yeah, well, I'm sure every pole dancer who's come back from pregnancy would tell you the same thing. Yeah. You're not going to pick up the tricks you were doing right before you fell pregnant when you go back into the studio. Yeah. Mums go in with their bubs to a mums and bubs and whatnot, and they're starting often from scratch. You've got to build back up, everything, because your body's done amazing things. So same thing. That's not an injury per se, but sort of, yeah. Don't compare yourself to your most successful. It's got to be a downward social comparison. You've got to set goals for yourself, and the goals need to be about performance. Process is the thing where you normally forget, as well as outcomes. Try to set it as an enduring goal. Think big picture. What does this mean for things that I value, my life in general and whatnot, as well as ranges. Give yourself ranges so that you can do the bare minimum in that goal and still feel like you've achieved. don't forget that ability really happens through learning and effort. Ability isn't just a thing that people are gifted with. You know, even very gifted sports people have had to put in effort and learning to be who they are. A big one we haven't really talked about too much, but we've kind of touched on, is around self-doubt.
Yeah.
So for one thing, you should normalize that self-doubt is normal. You know, it's okay to have some doubts. That normally means you care.
Yeah.
So, you know, the problem is that you need to turn it around. You can't sit and ruminate in self-doubt. So if you find yourself having those moments where you're doubting whether you can do it, first go, good, that means I care. And then you need to actually challenge those thoughts. So reverse it. And this is where that self-compassion can help as well. So a friend said to you, I just don't think I'm ever going to be able to invert. Then you could say to them, is it possible that actually this trick, inverting, is challenging for everyone? And so the fact that you haven't managed to master it in your very first term when you've started training for it is actually the normal experience.
And it's just, and that's, inverts are an interesting one, because I know whenever I put anything up about inverts on TikTok, inverts are easy. People do them in the beginner. I'm like, not for everybody. They're actually quite a complex movement.
Yeah. So some people, they just pick up inverts. And then others, like myself, it took a solid year.
Yeah. Wow.
Many videos to try and really identify what the bloody hell am I not doing or doing wrong. So yes, whatever it is, you know, reversing that self-doubt to be like, is it possible that it's not you, it's the situation?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I love it.
And look, to sustain motivation, don't wait for it to come. You know, for mindset, if you want to do something, you have to do it before you're ready. And you also have to stop before you want to.
Yeah, super guilty.
Yeah. If you stop before you want to, you're going to want to get back into it.
And I think this is where we get so excited about pole, and we have all these conversations about overtraining, is we just want to do pole all the time because it's so exciting, but it can actually be detrimental.
And actually, if you pull yourself back, you're going to have a better mindset towards pole. So yeah, restrict yourself in that way will be beneficial.
Oh, I love it. So many good things. And I think a really important reminder is motivation is directional. I really like that one.
Yeah, absolutely. It doesn't just disappear. It's that if you're not doing something, you're motivated to avoid the thing rather than approach it.
And I think if there's people listening and you're feeling a little bit like, oh my God, I have so much work to do right now. Like, it's okay. Like, identification is the first step for doing this, and understanding and taking that time to reflect is good.
Yeah, realizing that there's change to happen, that's a thumbs up. Then the next step is just to set tiny little goals, just tiny little ones, because, you know, you're not going to wake up tomorrow morning and be an entirely different person regarding your mindset, but you can do just a little smidge of a thing every day. And this time next year, gosh, who knows what you might achieve.
Ooh, I love it. Thank you so much, Jess, for joining us to uncover this absolutely mammoth topic. I feel like we only scratched the surface, but I absolutely enjoyed the conversation. I think many listeners are going to be getting something out of this.
Absolute pleasure. Happy to help you uncover it.
Thank you. And where can people find you on social media if they want to?
Yeah, so on Instagram at jess.does.research. Come and follow for some motivation hints and tips and fun facts from research, and even some writing tips, because, you know, most of us write, so let's write better.
Oh, I love it. I will definitely, I think I already follow you, but I will definitely
follow me again.
Yes, it's like, can I do that twice? Thank you so much for joining us today. If anything in this conversation resonated with you, please take a screenshot, tag at uncovered.pd and tag Jess, and let us know what you loved about this episode, because I think it's just such a great topic to talk about. And yeah, until next time, we'll see you soon.